So more and more is just continually being asked of our schools. And I don't know that if you have not been in a school or if you haven't had kind of a front row seat to it, I don't know that you realize that. The foundation formula as designed doesn't work for Chittenden County and areas that work at scale, in my opinion.
I think we made a pact that we're not going to fight today. So maybe we should move into the content.
Hello, Vermont. I'm Andy Julo.
And I'm Joanna Grossman.
And this is There's No Way in Creemee.
Vermont politics, culture, and beyond.
Thanks for joining us.
Hello, and welcome to There's No Way in Creemee. How you doing, Andy?
Pretty good.
Should
Pretty
we redo
good.
that? Is that no? We're just going to write it off.
We've got We've got 10 minutes of pre-recorded material that
will never be released.
You didn't know I'd hit record.
I didn't see the countdown in our new app.
If there's ever a behind the scenes, There's No Way in Creemee, we can use this 10 minutes to shed some light on our creative process.
Yeah, or if we're in some kind of very public, warfare, litigation process, that might be used.
I've got plenty to use against you from the B-roll.
Awesome.
Things that we've said before we started actually recording, or you knew we were recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yep.
I think we made a pact that we're not going to fight today, so maybe we should move into the content.
I think that's a good idea.
Andy, I've noticed that Creemees are having a moment right now.
It seems like it, right?
Yeah. So there's I don't know if you saw this, but there's a little sweet little maker in Burlington that makes these things called compliment coins. Oh, I gave you one over the holidays, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she made the Creemee bingo, which I have been doing.
Oh, she was responsible for that.
She made that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I told her I really wish that she had all the Creemee places on my district because that would be so great. But she made Creemee bingo. We're seeing that circulate. And the Creemee passport thing is really taken off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's a couple of Creemee contests going on right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I think I missed that.
I think the Eat Vermont is doing one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's summer and that there's always a little bit of a Creemee revival, but it does seem like right now there's a lot of focus on Creemees.
It's big.
You could either pay attention to what's going on globally and nationally.
Yeah.
Or you could focus on Creemees.
Don't you think that's why?
That's an easy choice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our society is melting down. Let's have a Creemee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so.
The Creemee seems less melty.
It might be. Yeah. And it's just for sure. And it's it's also just it's a happy place.
I had one yesterday on a bike ride and it was really hot.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge. I almost dripped. I could feel it on my finger and I caught it before it hit the ground, but it was touch and go. It was dicey because it was at Seb's and you struggled the first time.
Yeah,
we went there,
did.
And it was hot that day as well.
Are you questioning the integrity of a Seb's Creemee?
I do sort of wonder. Maybe it's a little bit meltier.
Yeah.
But it has been very hot when the times that I've gone there recently. So that could be it as well.
When I went, last weekend for the campaign, I stopped by the Creemee window in Richmond at Big Spruce. They had really good Creemees. Steve and I went there, but I'm telling you this because I don't usually get the crazy toppings. I'll get as people know, I like sprinkles. Yeah. But they had Reese's Bits, and I was just dude, I think I'm going to get those. And I just did. They completely ruined the structural integrity of the Creemee. The Creemee was delicious. Yeah. They did a great job. I got chocolate, which I don't get that much, just flat out chocolate, but I do love chocolate. And I like the combo, but it was they were just falling off and totally ruining the outside of it. So it was just no disrespect to the Creemee window. It was a quality product. Yeah. But I'm just saying it was a bad order on my part.
I saw that, and I thought, oh, is that Reese's Pieces? And you said yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
And it seemed like it would be good, but I think you're
right. It was
right.
really
if I
tasty.
Think about it,
But they were just falling off and dragging the Creemee with them.
Sprinkles stick to your tongue, and they come up with you.
Yeah.
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 Whereas those probably just got pushed into the middle or fell off.
Yeah. Sprinkles lift you up. The Reese's Pieces drag you down.
All right.
Yeah, that was my finding. But it was tasty. Yeah. And then we're going to be back at Palmer Lane this weekend, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what they've got going on. They had butterscotch recently, and that sounded good.
It does sound good.
But I don't know if that's still the special.
I was kind of sad that I missed pistachio at the Creemee window in Richmond.
Ooh.
That, I know.
Yeah,
Doesn't it sound good?
I like pistachio.
Yeah, well, I'll be curious to see what Palmer Lane has cooking when we get over there. So on to political things.
It's one of the topics of this podcast.
It's a frequent Creamee's also, but
we didn't set out to be talking about Creamees a lot, but
no,
it's what people want to hear.
it is.
And
I
it's
mean,
what we want to talk
we're
about.
giving the people what they want,
All right.
and it turns out we wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked a little about how a lot of legislators are just kind of like piecing out last minute.
Like I thought about it, and then there's like a triple whammy here of like, wait your turn.
Yes, right.
Wait your turn.
Yeah.
Don't primary. Like, there'll be an opening, and when there's an opening, you can throw your hat in the ring, and then you can run.
Right.
But if existing legislators do not communicate that they are leaving.
Right, until the day before the filing deadline.
Until the day before the filing deadline. And, a lot of these seats were empty, but more often than not, they've let somebody know who they want to take their place.
Yeah.
That they're doing this, and then they gather their signatures. And so if you've waited your turn, you're out.
Yeah.
If you don't wait your term and you end up in a primary, as you've been trying to counteract, they will use party resources against you in the primary.
Yeah.
That's not great. It's a bad combination of things. And I mean, I think we should have a different window for incumbents. They should have to announce 2 weeks earlier than everybody else. And so you would know if somebody's not running for re-election in an office. And I think this should happen at the town level too. Like, people want to get involved. They don't want to move into a town and end up running head to head with some long-term popular person
and people
get
want to
embarrassed.
Yeah, and people want to like help out in their local town, but
Right.
they don't know that this guy
They don't know. They see
know.
the list of open positions because legally, when the town clerk says, these are the positions that are open, somebody may be intending to run, and it may have held that position for a long time and may be intending to run.
Yeah.
And you think it's open, and you apply. Oh, the planning commission. I'd like to get involved in my community, and I'll be on the planning commission. And then you end up getting in a contested race. People, why are you doing this to Fred? Fred's been there for 20 years, and then you get embarrassed on election day, and then you never come back.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think, if there is this pressure in Vermont not to primary and to wait your turn, and then absolutely, like the two things that we're seeing happen repeatedly is someone decides not to run, but they just whisper it to one person who quietly collects their signatures, and then boom, there's a handoff right at the filing deadline. Or they don't tell anyone at all, and the seat doesn't get filled by someone in the primary. And I just feel like, okay, this is a great way to consolidate power within a very limited network, and is really kind of goes against the whole democracy thing. So I just don't feel like we can, like, whether I like them or not personally, like, I don't think we can criticize people for primarying, because we literally can't count on the incumbents to let us know when they're not running. They just don't.
Right.
They've shown us, like, time and time again, they are not going to let us know to the last minute. So if you want to run, you should run. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. These filings that come out once the filing deadline happens, there's just these huge surprises on that. And there really shouldn't be a lot of surprises in that.
Yeah.
So, I would say if you're an incumbent locally, state Senate, whatever position, your deadline should be 2 weeks earlier than everybody else.
Yeah.
And then so everybody knows that seat is open, if it's open and it's fair.
Yeah. I mean, even 2 weeks isn't that long an amount of time to decide to, like, be aware that a seat's opening and, like, decide and, like, get signatures. Like, it really should be like, oh, I'm not going to run again, like, by, like, mid-session, And it's funny because, I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but, like, I mean, House leadership did really tell people they wanted to know if someone wasn't running. Like, they used to say, like, you have to let us know, not have to, but we want you to let us know, like, early so we can help start recruiting. And then not all of House leadership did that, you know? And I don't really get that. It's frustrating. I mean, I met so many people when I ran my agency and when I was running county Dems who had an interest in running, but were afraid to go up against the establishment. And this is why.
Yeah. Democracy's in trouble. Let's do the little things right.
Yeah, real. We had a really good interview this week.
I love talking school board matters. I mean,
you were a school board chair.
I was a school board chair, and you put together the episode plan, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, that's great. I don't really have anything to add, but I bet once we start talking, it'll spark a few thoughts.
Yeah.
And it did.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had Megan Metzler, who is the chair of the CVU school district, and she has been an outspoken critic of the education transformation plan that the state has in motion that would pull over $60 million out of Chittenden County schools. She's been very outspoken about it, and she's good with numbers. She's an accountant working for VSAC in her day job. And so, yeah, it was fun to hear her take and get to geek out on education funding policy with her.
Yeah. Some, some things to listen. I mean, this is the largest district in the state.
Yeah.
And it's a district that has stitched together a lot of rural areas. And so a lot of people consider this to be the model. Let's have a rural area. Let's have all kinds of consolidation here, and let's consolidate our administration and our purchasing, and then we'll be able to have all these rural schools. And they're struggling too. Like it's not like this is designed so that the district that seems to be the model for Vermont is going to succeed and see that success right out of the gate. They're already hurting and seeing that this could squeeze them even tighter. So
yeah, you also they also have the right population density to pull off that consolidation. If you were going to try to get that scale in a rural district, it would be geographically enormous and have huge geographic barriers that would be expensive.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see. We've got we've passed the foundation formula that's coming earlier than was originally planned.
Yep.
And, the administration was clear from the beginning, this is not a la carte. You have to consolidate and close schools before you do the foundation formula.
Right.
And the legislature had struggled with that being unpopular. Said, well, let's just do the foundation formula.
Right.
And now we're starting to see, how are districts going to respond to that? I mean, my local district, so we tuition, we don't have any high school in Grandisle County, so we send out, and the reimbursement rate is going to be about $21,000 for a high school student. The schools that we send to are $25,000 and $23,000. That's Colchester and South Burlington. So it's not even enough to pay tuition to these large districts that have scale that are
so
only
ill-conceived.
options. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm totally fascinated. I mean, one thing that to me really suggests there's issues with the education transformation process is that you and I live in really different districts, and this is really bad for both of them.
Yeah, and I think you could say CVU is kind of a third flavor.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily working for them either. So there's definitely some warning bells here.
Yeah. Oh, well, I meant, I guess I meant our counties, so our broader, as I was including CVU in mine. But okay. No, you're not wrong, though. Actually, Burlington, CVU, and your own district, they're so different. Yeah, and they do seem to be universally bad. And I don't really understand. And we talked about this with Megan a little, when I talk to folks about I don't support the plan in motion to pull over $60 million out of Chittenden County schools. And people are like, what? They don't even know what's happening.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, wow, how are we back here? How we're imposing major funding changes to, the core public function, our public schools. And it is already causing layoffs and, major changes to the local economy and services for our families and our communities. And people don't know what's happening. How? How did we get here?
Right. And we heard somebody drop a hint that maybe this won't actually really happen by someone who should know, which was interesting. And it reminded us of the Act 181 process. Are we going to do this again? Are we going to put out something that isn't well communicated? And as soon as it starts to get implemented, we're going to feel the blowback and it will just get repealed.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like that's not a great way to legislate, to be like, oh, yeah, well, I'm going to vote for it because it's going to be rolled back. It does seem a little odd.
Yeah, I agree. legislation by repeal, not necessarily the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah. We'll see what happens. Yeah. 181 was kind of the poster child for that. And it's not, I just think we need to have a better way to be communicating to the public if we're going to be making major changes to their communities. Part of the problem is that with 73, and then again with this year's legislation 955, it was just like jammed through at the end. And we had a situation again where legislators were not sure until right at the end what they were voting for. So how could they possibly be communicating it to their districts?
Yeah, that is a pattern that the really tough decisions get put off till the very end. It's this game of poker, and that's not very transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's reckless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is an exciting interview.
Yes,
and we
that's
hope
what we
that
got to say.
Yeah.
We got off track there.
We had thoughts and feelings about that.
We do.
But yeah, we really hope that you guys enjoy hearing from Megan. She's super smart and an amazing person in our community. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this interview. Hello and welcome to There's No A in Creemee. Megan Metzler, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that. So tell us, I mean, we know you obviously, but tell us who you are and, what your role is in Vermont education.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm Megan Metzler. I'm the chair of the Champlain Valley School District School Board. I'm also the parent of 2 CVSD kids. I'm a parent for another about 4 hours. My oldest will graduate from UVM in a couple hours, and my youngest just graduated from 8th grade last night. So it's been a big weekend for public education and really educational journeys over the past couple of days. But parent, school board chair, taxpayer, all that good stuff. I'm also on the Vermont School Board Association. I'm their vice president as well. So I've been spending a lot of time in governance for the past couple of years.
Yeah, you really have.
Nice. So that is the biggest school district in the state of Vermont. Talk to us about your role as chair of the CVU board.
Yeah. So, the chair is quite an interesting role. You don't appreciate it until you are sitting in it for a couple of years. I really view my role as leading our board. We've got 12 board members that come from 5 different towns. And we all have different perspectives, but I have an excellent board. I really appreciate everything that they're doing. But I view my role as chair as making sure that the board is setting goals, following, making sure that we're supervising our superintendent, and that we're really moving forward for the mission and vision of our district. That's ultimately the goal of the chair. And I think a lot of people that join school boards think that you're going to be able to deal with an issue with a principal or deal with something specific that's happening with a schedule. And that's really not the role of a school board member. And the more time you spend on a school board and the more you get used to it, you realize, if we're doing our job and I as chair, I'm doing my job as the board, we're moving our district forward towards our mission and vision and those big picture things. And if those things are right, then everything else should fall into place.
You learned that fast. It took me a few years as chair to learn to calm down and let things play out and monitor them and be helpful and provide resources to your administration.
I'm not going to say that I'm perfect at it. I'm going to say that that's our role, and it's really important to understand your lane and stay in your lane. And it's really hard to stay in your lane sometimes, especially when these big things are popping up and you want to be like, I really want to do the XYZ, and it's so important to stay in your lane, know your lane, and make sure that we're doing what makes sense and is in our role. Yeah.
They bait you too, because they give you these magazines with all these great ideas and things they're doing in Kansas, and you're like, wait, you bring it to the board and you're like, hey, let's try this. And they're like, settle down.
Exactly.
One step at a time.
I'm really fascinated by the partnership that I love the partnership that you have with Adam Bunting, the superintendent, and here in my district in Burlington, like Tom and Claire, the superintendent and chair, also have a really wonderful partnership, and it reminds me a lot of the candidate campaign manager relationship, and it's been fun to observe and to get to know you both a little bit better.
He and I. He's been the superintendent for about 2.5 years now, and in many ways, we complement each other very well, right? He's in every way an educational visionary. He has a vision for what he wants education to be. And I'm a CFO and an accountant, and I have a lot of views on how things should work from a process perspective. So, but I do think it is a good partnership, and I couldn't think of a better person to kind of work together with.
Are you guys a policy governance board?
We are not a policy
You're not.
governance board.
Okay,
No.
so you're operational. So you really have to find that line every time.
Yes.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, so this is a good dovetail actually. So, there is more and more being asked of our schools right now. I know I see that all the time in the Burlington School District. Can you talk to us a little about what the school, sometimes literally when I'm on doors, people say, well, when I was a kid, kind of thing. And I'm like, schools aren't like they were when you were a kid. So can you talk to us a little about that, about what schools are like now and why it's different to govern them now?
Yeah, I think I always preface this by saying, I am not in the schools every day. So I don't want someone to be like, oh, look at her saying what's happening in schools. Because I always want to be really clear, I'm not in schools every day, and I shouldn't be in schools every day from a governance perspective. But I know what's going on in our schools. I've got 2 kids in the schools, and Adam and I have made it a point to go and have lunch in almost every school this year and eat lunch with kindergartners and hear what's happening and all those great things. But I don't want to suggest that, I'm not on the front lines like a teacher or a paraeducator is. But more and more is being asked of our schools every year. Just from a legislative perspective, I've spent a lot of time following all the legislation that's coming out, and both the VSA and the VSBA have sent out lists of these are all the things that need to be done. And when you think about, chronic absenteeism is something that we didn't even talk about when I first joined the board. What happened with immigration protocols? That is a big deal and something that we've had to think about and that our administrators have had to think about. Schools are being asked more and more to fill all of these policy or just social needs that kids cannot find, that are not found in the community. So whether that be, we don't have it in our district, but I know there are districts that have dental services for kids. We spend a lot of time. We have people in our district that spend a lot of time with just the complex mental health needs for kids. And, when kids need help, we have people in the schools, but they're trying to find people that could help them too from a mental health perspective. And there are shortages all the time. So it really lands on schools. Mm-hmm. But, we all are, universal school meals is important. Make sure that kids show up to school fed every day. And you can't learn if you're hungry. Mm-hmm. So more and more is just continually being asked of our schools. And I don't know that, if you have not been in a school or if you haven't had kind of a front row seat to it, I don't know that you realize that, because I certainly didn't know that when I joined the board or when when my kids were younger and I was not involved in the board.
Yeah, I did not get that until my kids started school at Champlain, and I got to, be in the classroom and just to see how many needs are in that space. It's hard to teach in that environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really the needs that you see out in society, but at a more acute phase in schools. I mean, housing is, if kids are moving around from couch to couch, it's hard to focus on education, mental health, hunger, all these issues we have in society. Shouldn't be surprising that they're there in the schools.
No, and those kids are 5 or 6. I mean,
Yep.
Not that adults, they have even fewer of the coping skills and the life experience to deal with those things. So it shows up in kids in more acute ways that are, we need to attend to.
Yeah. And it's such we sink or swim together. I think a lot of, folks that I talk to don't fully appreciate that every kid at school needs to be fed, needs to be cared for the whole class to succeed.
Right.
You can't really have a couple kids suffer. I mean, you don't want that anyway, just for humanitarian reasons, but you can't really have a couple kids who are really struggling and have high needs that aren't being met and still have the classroom function.
Right.
It's just not possible.
I agree.
Yeah.
So school boards and administration have often gone to the legislature in the past, usually in an informational capacity to help the legislature understand what's going on. We saw this session, school boards and superintendents take on more of an advocacy role. What changed?
Yeah. So I joined my board 5 years ago. 2021 was my first year on the board. And I did not know anything about education finance. For lots of reasons, I joined the board. And I remember my very first legislative breakfast, one of the legislators said, what became Act 127 is going to happen, and that's just the way that it's going to be. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea what it was. And it was really like, okay, that's what's going to happen. We're going to change the way pupil weightings. That's what we're going to do. Mm. And I think that, and we moved forward, and our district came up with a plan. We said, okay, this is what's going to happen. We understand the change in pupil weights. We're going to follow the law. And we actually came up with like a plan as to how we would address it over time, because it was supposed to be that the weights would change, but you would be held harmless, for lack of a better word, on your tax rate for a period of 5 years. So we had this whole plan. We worked around it, and we're like, okay, and then you're going to hit a cliff. We knew that there was a cliff coming to us. So we spent so much time on that as a board. And then I guess it was 3 years ago now. Yeah, it was right before I became chair, or 2.5 years ago. I think they realized, oh, wait, that's not going to work from a math perspective. It will break the education system. And they actually changed the law at the beginning of the session. And then, which led to a tax revolt. Our budget failed for the first time since we've been a consolidated district. And I think that, and shortly thereafter, I became the chair. But we had to become, throughout that process, myself and the former chair, we were like, no one understands what's happening here, and we need to be really vocal about it. And I think we were in a position where we were prepared, we were ready to do it, and then everything changed on us. And I personally think it changed because there was a lack of what I'll call modeling, or like the unintended consequences of that legislation were so high that, and I don't think there was a lot of pushback against Act 127 when it went through the legislature. I don't remember it being.
It was nearly unanimous.
It was nearly unanimous, right? And then it went into place, and I'm not going to say that's the only reason we had a tax revolt. All sorts of things happened at the same time, but once we started realizing the impact of that, I think we realized we need to make sure that our voice is heard here, because since that has happened, I know my district has cut $9 million of spending. We've cut over 80 positions from our budget. We've seen the impact of that on our students. We've seen the impact of that on our educators. And I feel very strongly that our voice needs to be heard, and that any solutions that we have to make sense for everybody and not hurt outcomes for kids. So we have gotten very vocal about that. And we've always had legislative breakfasts, but they've taken on different approaches in the past couple of years. And in my view, my role as a board chair, again, I've only been on the board for 5 years, but I don't know that we as a board felt like we had to be as loud from a legislative perspective. We're not loud. I don't know that we felt like we had to be as active from a legislative perspective. We certainly were not watching legislative committees. We certainly were not understanding what was happening to the level that we are right now. But we are at a point where every decision feels like it could just have unintended consequences that will really hurt kids. And I also very much believe that everyone who is working on this is well-intentioned. I don't believe that there's bad intentions in the system, but I do think that the unintended consequences of so many of the things that we're doing, and how complicated our system is, that the impacts could be very far reaching if we're not vocal about it and making sure that people understand the impacts of what could happen.
Yeah. So as you know, I attended your legislative breakfast, and I so appreciated that, and how, you guys referenced some of the JFO reporting about Act 73. And yeah. I mean, it's interesting, like, having worked on campaigns for so many years, a lot of my friends, joined school boards over that time. And then once they were on school board, they were like, oh yeah, I can't get involved in politics. And then suddenly that just started to change. And it was like, because it was like the schools are under threat.
Yeah.
Board
public
members
education
like
is so important.
Like
public education is so important. If our voices aren't being heard, then, I feel very strongly, and I think I'm saying this from another board chair that I know, but you can't say we didn't. We need to make sure that you hear what the impacts will be, is that you're making clear-eyed decisions.
Yeah.
The decisions that you're making, you need to understand what the ramifications could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. So Act 73 is how the wheels started to come off as I was observing, although as you referenced, there were some previous pieces of legislation that did have unintended consequences. So Act 73, as we know, had, a plan to pull over $60 million out of our county schools.
Yep.
And then at the end of this session, this whole session, there was kind of like this back and forth between the House and the Senate. The House wanted to do it one way, the Senate wanted to do another way. And while they did soften on forced mergers, which isn't a big deal for our district, for our county, I was surprised that they really doubled down on pulling money out of the county, and even moved it up a year. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your read on that and where we're at on that.
Yeah. So you're right. I've been probably because that's my background, but I've been really focused on the foundation formula and the impact that could have on our district since we started talking about this. And I think that started. It started when the governor's plan came out and we started looking at the foundation formula there. And every district, including ours, went and ran the math to say, this is what the huge breakdown would be. And from that, talking about being legislatively active, that's when we started sending letters to legislators, this is what the impact will be overall. So when the JFO report came out, I looked at it and I said, I know this is just there. And, there's a ton of caveats around that JFO report. And it doesn't include special ed. It doesn't include 100%. Didn't include a bunch of other things. So that is very much a best guess. But yeah, I think that when the foundation, I have a hard time saying we don't agree with the foundation formula. I very much believe that we need to have education reform, and I believe that education spending we need practical solutions. Affordability is also important to me as well.
Yeah, of course.
But I do think that the foundation formula, when you go to apply it to an area that operates at scale and that we don't have schools to close, or you don't have schools that make sense to combine, the class sizes that you would, and that operate at scale, right? I've had plenty of discussions with fourth grade teachers that have 25 kids in their class, and kindergartens that have over 20 kids in their class. Mm-hmm. And outside of Vermont, that might sound like a normal size kindergarten or fourth grade, but even in different parts of the state, I don't think they get much bigger than that. I don't think we want kindergartens with 30 kids in them. So the foundation formula as designed doesn't work for Chittenden County and areas that work at scale, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that is also because it doesn't take into account the differences in wages in different parts of the state, the cost to compete, which reflects collective bargaining agreements that we have throughout the state. And it doesn't reflect any of that. So we're really concerned about it. We're really concerned about anything that will pull $60 million out of Chittenden County. How many hundreds of teachers is that, or educators is that? And when you're asking more of schools and you're asking districts that have continually been right-sizing their districts, whether that be our district, I don't know many school boards that have not been making cuts in order to reflect changes in class in head count or class sizes and just student body. But I don't know how you can ask more of us to do with less, and there's no clear way to combine our districts and close a bunch of buildings, which is what you'd have to do.
Yeah. Do you have a sense of what kind of cuts it's going to require at CVU?
Well, it would be, we do that math all the time.
Yeah.
And, we've cut $9 million was around 80 FTE, and that wasn't all FTE that we cut. So it would be more than that.
What are you hearing from your peers at the School Board Association, maybe in smaller districts, about the impacts that this would have and maybe how that might differ from CVU, USD?
Yeah, I think that it's fascinating when I do have a statewide view because of my work on the VSBA, right? I think it depends on who you talk to. But no one is. I haven't found, there are definitely districts. I also think that it's also really important that we are really clear that there are districts that absolutely need more, like kids are not getting their needs met because they can't pass budgets and the impact on students. And I do believe that we need to come up with a solution that helps those districts get what they need. So there are definitely people that are saying, yeah, we absolutely need the foundation formula. We absolutely need some of these other things. But I don't think anyone thinks that we've got the right solution in the foundation formula, that it's been assessed yet. I mean, the legislature knows that the foundation formula isn't ready to go yet. Right. They haven't gotten their report back from others. And the fact that we're still waiting on a report from a third party, and then we're going to kind of, I view it as rush it through in 2 years, is just, I think that unintended consequences will be very great.
Yeah, and it's concerning because you are the largest district in the state, and it's not because you are the major population center. You have some larger towns, but you have a lot of rural area.
Oh yeah,
and you've done what a lot of people would have considered the right things over the years, is consolidated your high school and then taken that down through all grade levels. So you have all the resources there, and are still having trouble making those ends meet. Yeah,
I mean, and it's we have a K-12 unified district, but yeah, to get from one part of, I think it's 100. Our vice chair went and figured out those square miles, but it's almost 200 square miles. When we're busing all around. To get from my house to CVU is 20 minutes, but I don't live as far. I don't live on the outskirts of where the district is, so there are definitely kids where it takes 25 minutes plus to get there overall. But yeah, and I think that we did consolidate in 2017, and I wasn't on the board at that time. I think it was the right decision. I joke that actually when the vote, so my vice chair told me that the 10-year anniversary of that vote was just last week, and I said, I want you to know I voted against it back then, but I now know that was the wrong decision. Yeah, but why did I vote against it? Because I wanted control of my small school. I wanted, like, all of the reasons why this is such a heated topic. I wanted control of I didn't know what that meant, but I wanted the school my kids go to have a local vote. And and I know now, looking back 10 years, that the consolidation was far better for us than had we not.
I chaired my consolidation study committee. Yeah. I voted against it.
Okay.
Never tell anybody that, but here's the right place.
Oh, wow. Yep. Why? Oh, did you vote against? Because you wanted.
I love my local schools and that local control, and we were such hawks, and we watched that budget, and we felt that was absolutely the best we could do, and it's gone up considerably since the union. It's just the larger, more hands-off approach doesn't always work, especially in Vermont, where we're kind of used to hyper-local.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think the great model is our towns. Like everybody is a fiscal hawk at the local level. We watch like the gravel expenditure and what's the maintenance guy doing this week. And I love that for our school, and I thought we got the best outcome for our kids and from our bottom line when we kept it hyper-local.
Yeah.
But I'm old-fashioned like that.
There you go.
Well, I still feel like, there's so many ways, like we're like way out in the field now. But I always feel like, first of all, this doesn't really affect like my county or my district. So I'm always hesitant to opine about what, what rural districts should do. But I always feel like we could be consolidating government services at schools. There's other ways to leverage those resources that would help the communities instead of harm them. We could also be like, promoting housing and get more families there. So there's like a lot we could do.
Right.
But one of the things that is really always fascinating to me, and especially right now where we hit this last year and we're hitting it again this year, is like when I tell people that, the legislature passed a plan in motion that's going to pull over $60 million out of our county schools, they haven't heard that.
I know.
And I'm like, why isn't this a lead story? Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, I keep coming back to this. People are like, really? They're like shocked. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I haven't seen that in the news. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's I don't know why. And it's fascinating to me because, when you go to put out a budget, when you go to do any of those types of things, you hear from the number of people you hear from is, especially if you're not making any cuts, is relatively small overall. And that's something that we've struggled with. And that's been an area of focus for a really long time. But yeah, I don't know if we need to do, a better job of it. I also think that, it's a nut we need to crack for sure. But we also, I also think about like, when have we decided to go and be more vocal about it as a board? Like a lot of our communication has been directly to legislators. I've been talking a lot with other school boards. A lot of it is thinking about when you actually, the timing of when you're going to go to everyone, because if you go too early, then it's too far behind. So last year, graduation week, our superintendent had his daughter graduating, and I had to be like, by the way, I need you to write a letter to the community because they were voting on H454. And I was like, and we need to get this out. And we did, and we got hundreds of emails sent at the right time. But a lot of it is also really like a thinking about like when it makes the most sense to make those communications and all those things. But
yeah. I often feel also like bad for you guys that the pressure is now on the schools to apply pressure to the legislature. Like I've watched Tom and Claire in my own district, really become strong advocates for, sufficient education funding, and they really, as you know, got pretty assertive about it.
Yes.
And parents aren't used to getting emails like that,
right.
So I totally get it.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, where do you want everyone to focus their time and when's the right time to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Speaking of parents and educators and those most impacted by what may be coming, what's the reaction from that group? Is it anxiety? Is it excitement?
I think it depends where you are in the state.
Yeah.
I think that, and I think it depends on what's been happening with your local schools. I think what's happening in central Vermont right now is, and they're feeling the impacts of cuts. I think that everything that happened with Act 181 and rural schools in rural Vermont is getting a lot of focus. And then I think, I think it depends on where you are. If you go to school, or if your kids go to a school that's really small and you feel really strongly about that really small school, you're very concerned about your school's closing. If you are in an area that's more of scale and that pays higher wages, you're really concerned about the additional, and that has already gone through several years of cuts. It's what's the next budget cut going to be? And I think it depends. It is, back to hyper local. It is really depending on where you are. If you are in a part of the state that has school choice, you are 100% focused on school choice and maintaining that. That's not an area that that's not an area that we don't have school choice. And so, but it very much is. And I think it goes back to, as I said earlier, this is such a complex issue that there is no panacea that's going to make everybody happy. Mm-hmm. And so much of it is hyper local and what is impacting your communities.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of impacting the community, something that this change has really been, I think that we're not talking about enough, is that this money that goes to schools doesn't then evaporate. It goes into the community. It
Correct.
pays the educators who are our neighbors. And, so my day job is for Phoenix Books.
Yep.
And so when library budgets get cut, we know about it. When school library budgets get cut, we know about it. And so, educators, a lot of educators come in. They actually often spend their own money at Phoenix for their classrooms. We hear about it all the time. And we're already starting to hear from folks saying, oh yeah, we're going to have to be spending less. And we're just one tiny slice of it, but I would expect lots of local businesses are going to be impacted by these cuts. So it's an economic development issue too.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. And so I was I guess I was curious about I just led the witness, I guess, but I was sort of curious about your take on what the district's relationship is with the local economy, and if you have concerns about that.
I think when we employ the Champlain Valley School District employs 850 people, give or take.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big employer.
It is.
Yeah.
We're a massive employer for the area. 400 teachers and plus. We are a really important part of, we're a really important employer to the local economy, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, anything that happens to ours, and there's this expectation that if we continue to cut that, that actually is quite frustrating when I listen to the dialogue. Well, because there is a teacher shortage, but then there absolutely is, and then there are other we're the number of people that apply for jobs at CVSD is very small compared to what it used to be a couple of years ago, right? They used to have dozens of people apply for teacher positions, and now it could be a handful depending on what it is.
Wow.
But there seems to be this expectation that, well, if we reallocate funding, then teachers from Champlain Valley School District will move to the Northeast Kingdom, and I think that it's or other parts of the state, and I think that it's not thinking about the people that are behind it. Some of those discussions.
Often their own families are in the schools.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Tons of all the time.
Do we have other stuff?
Ready to wrap?
I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You did the last question.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you've listened to the podcast. You know what our last question is.
Yes.
When you go to a Creemee stand, what are you ordering?
I live in Charlotte, and there's not a lot of things that are convenient to where I live in Charlotte. But Vermont cookie love is, and I consider myself very lucky.
Yeah.
So I get a maple coffee twist with First Love cookie crumble. First Love is the chocolate chip cookie crumble. It's excellent.
That sounds really good. We might have to put that on our list.
You need to put it on the list. It's very good.
Ooh, noted.
Yes.
Okay. And so, cookie crumble, that doesn't count as
I'll give it to you. You're
No,
down.
you will. Yeah, I'm totally losing the podcast.
I did go to Mr. Creemee on Saturday, and I did get sprinkles.
You did?
Yes.
Isn't that place good?
It was very good.
It's so good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and
you for having me.
Just everything you're doing for our community.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for
Absolutely.
having me.
Well, that brings us to the end of this episode.
Thank you all for listening.
Follow us between episodes for the latest updates on our socials at There's No A in Creemee on Instagram, Substack, and Blue Sky.
And catch us on our next episode of There's No A in Creemee, Vermont Politics, Culture, and Beyond in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I looked at your questions and I thought, once we get started.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
I didn't just think that. I yelled it. No, I thought once we get going, I'm going to come up with things on the spot. I don't necessarily need to add particular. What?
I don't know. I'm just listening. I didn't do anything that time.
You're thinking about that now, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to tell Steve and Corinne that you're fighting with me.